Hello, I'm Punita here from Huawei Global Training Center, and today we're going to discuss about the content FDD 88R site solution. So let's look into the related hardware of FDD 88R. So this is actually an AAU model 5972, which can support 88R and the power consumption is 830 watts. This is a RRU model. So this RRU can be 3971, which can support 44R module, or 3279, which can support 80 and 8R transmit and receive. So BBU that we are using is 39110 and 3900. So this is the BBU model, and the UBBP that we are using is UBBP E4. So this is the UBBP module. So these are the requirements of the hardware for the FDD solution. So let's look into the typical networking scenario 1, which is about 1800 megahertz active. So over here for the 1800 megahertz, we have 3 sectors, per sector 1 carrier. So 1 sector, 1 carrier. So the configuration is 1 UBBP E4, CPRI rate is 10 gigabits per second. So let's look into the model. So this is carrier 1, carrier 2, this is 1 carrier, this is the 3rd carrier. So each of the sectors, sector 1, sector 2 and sector 3 will have 1 carrier each. So this is actually an AAU model. So this one is an AAU model. So for this 1800 CPRI, we are using AAU model. And 1 UBBP4 and 1 UMPTE, we are using BBU 39110. For the second scenario, 1800 megahertz, but per sector, we have 2 carriers. So we have 2 carriers. So in that case, we are using 2 UBBP board, E4 boards. CPRI is 10 gigabits, and we are using common CPRI compression, which must be enabled. So the second scenario, sector 1, sector 2 and sector 3 will have 2 carriers each, and they are using 2 UBBP E4 and 1 UMPTE, and this one is a AAU model. So typical networking scenario 2, 1800 megahertz active and 2100 megahertz passive. For this module, 3 sectors, each sector 1 carrier, and this is the AAU model. Below is the RRU model. So they are using different module here. So they have 2 UBBP E4 and 1 UMPTE. So the yellow color link is referring to 1800 megahertz towards the AAU model, and the green color link is referring to the RRU model. So this one is 2100 megahertz. Second picture is referring to per carrier. Per sector we have 2 carriers. So this is for AAU model and this is for RRU model. So the yellow color link here is referring to 1800. The green color one is referring to 2100. So this is 2100 passive, 1800 active. So for this case, we need 4 UBBP board and 1 UMPTE. Next scenario, scenario 3, we have 1800 megahertz active and 2300 passive. So for the first diagram, sector 1, sector 2 and sector 3, we have 1 carrier. So we have AAU model 1800 and RRU model 2100. So we need 2 UBBP E4 and 1 UMPTE. For the second scenario, each sector, they have 2 carriers. For this scenario, AAU model is referring to 1800, RRU model is referring to 2100. So we need 4 UBBP E4 and 1 UMPTE. BBU is the same, we are using 39110. For the antenna cable connection, for FDD RRU2, we are using the cable port ACDB. So this is the cable port ACDB with RRU. So this one is FDD RRU1. So this is the scenario of 1800 active and 2100 passive. For the second scenario, it will be a TDD RRU. So this is the calibration values. So 1800 active and 2300 passive. So antenna 1, 2, 3 and 4. For AAU 5972 power supply solution, we are using the module EPU02D02 power supply, which can give power up to 3 AAU modules of 5972. So this is the EPU02O2 module. So this is the EPU module, and this is basically referring to AAU 5972. So the length is about 100 meters. DCDU on the other hand can provide dual channel power supply up to 3 AAUs are supported. So this one is actually AAU 5972. This is the ODM, and the length is also written here. So the length between ODM to the AAU is less than 2 meters. From the DCDU, this is the DCDU model, to the ODM is about less than 100 meters. So for the circuit breaker spec is about 80 amperes. So solution 1, voltage boosting with EPU module 02D02. It has a 2 built-in voltage boosting power distribution module. Each can provide power to 2 AAUs. So what is the configuration principle? One EPU module can provide power, which can provide power to 3 AAUs and 1 BPU by default. So power cable requirements will be 2 by 80 amperes. So this is the circuit breaker, minus 48 voltage, 80 amperes. Power boosting power distribution box. From there, the power will be supplied to BBU and RXUs. Solution 2, AAU dual channel power supply. So minus 48 voltage, dual channel power supply, AAU dual channel power supply using legacy power distribution box. So one AA uses 2 power supply circuit breakers for RRUs. So therefore, one ODM 03D module is required to combine 2 routes for power supply into one route to supply power to the AAUs. So that's why we have ODM. So ODM is basically used to combine the routes power supply into one route to power up the AAU. So the powers are received from DCDU module. At the same time, DCDU will also provide the power to the BBU. Circuit breaker is 80 ampere. True and false Q&A session. If we use DCDU to provide the power for AAU, each AAU only uses one power supply circuit breaker. It's a false statement. One EPU module can provide power to 3 AAUs and 1 BPU by default. This is a true statement. So the summary of FDD88R site solution, we discuss about related hardware of FDD88R, typical networking scenario 1, typical networking scenario 2 and typical networking scenario 3, antenna cable connections, AAU 5972 power supply solutions, solution 1 about voltage boosting of EPU module, and solution 2 about AAU dual channel power supply. Hope you enjoy the session. That's all from me. Thank you and bye.